All right, now that we're ready to start reading our sources for our college essay, we're going to be practicing our annotation skills again. You'll remember we really focused on these with Superman and Me. We're going to keep building them now. So whenever you get a source for your college essay assignment, you're going to see an essential question at the top of the page, and it'll give you some direction and something to think about as you're reading that particular source. So the essential question here is, what effect does higher education have on a person's quality of life? Let's just break that down for a moment. You should be copying my annotations as I go. First, higher education basically just means education beyond high school. So let's make a note there. But typically when we hear the word higher education, what we think of is college. So let's just make a note there because that's typically what people mean. Another phrase that's important here is quality of life. Quality of life just means basically how good your life is or maybe how bad it is. So let's make a note here. How good, bad your life is. So this could have to do with how happy you are, how healthy you are, what you kind of think about your life overall. So as we're reading, we're going to be looking for quotes that have to do with this essential question, things in the source that would help us answer it. That brings us to the 4 things that we're going to be doing as we read. The first thing that we're going to do is ask questions. Remember we talked about when we read Superman and Me, it's really important to ask questions so you can identify where you're confused and also think about what you want to answer as you read. We're then going to, like I just explained, highlight connections to EQ. EQ is essential questions. So as we read anything that makes us think about how higher education affects a person's quality of life, we'll highlight. Once we highlight something, we also want to paraphrase what it says, because if it's important enough to highlight, we want to make sure we can put it in our own words to be certain that we can understand it. So anything that we highlight, we also want to paraphrase. And then finally, we want to define unknown words so that we are sure that we understand what we're reading. So take a moment to pause the video if you need to and make sure that you have the same annotations on your paper so far that I do. All right, we're going to keep going. So once you made sure that your paper looks like mine, you should continue to copy down my annotations. I'm just going to read the very beginning of this and do a think aloud so you can hear kind of my process for making annotations as I go. So this is from USA Today College, and the title is, it's an excerpt from a study done on how higher education can help you live longer. All right, a study published July 8th in the scientific journal PLOS ONE found that people who receive higher education outlive those who don't. Interesting, I already have a question here, and that is why? Because that really surprises me. I didn't know that before, so I want some more details. So I already have a question written. What's more, it also found that failing to obtain a high education can be as detrimental to a person's life as smoking cigarettes. Okay, I got a little confused, so I'm going to go back. What's more, it also found. I think that it must be referring to the study. So I'm just going to make a note for myself so I remember we're still talking about this study that found this interesting fact. Okay, so I know the word obtain means get, so I'm just going to kind of paraphrase that for myself there. Failing to get a high education can be as detrimental to a person's life as smoking cigarettes. Okay, I'm going to circle this because I'm not quite sure what that word means. I'm going to try to take a guess. I know that smoking cigarettes is generally bad. It's unhealthy for you. So if it's saying failing to get a high education can be something to a person's life as smoking cigarettes, I think it means maybe something like bad. It can be as bad to a person's life. I'm just going to quickly look that up on my computer to make sure that I'm right. Okay, it means tending to cause harm. So I'm just going to go back and add the actual definition that I found online. Tending to cause harm. So I was pretty close. Okay, so now I'm realizing this sentence that I just read here actually seems to connect to the essential question, because quality of life is how good or bad your life is or feels, and smoking cigarettes could definitely affect someone's quality of life and their health, and there's something about that in this sentence, so I'm going to highlight this because it connects back to the essential question. Okay, now that I've highlighted it, remember I need to paraphrase it, so I'm going to read it again and think about how I want to paraphrase. What more, it, meaning the study, also found that failing, meaning not getting a high education can be as bad or as much as causing harm to a person's life as smoking cigarettes. Okay, so I'm going to think, how can I put this in my own words? I'm going to start with the study shows, I guess it's saying not going to college. Going to college has really bad effects. Okay, so I've paraphrased it, put it in my own words. The study shows not going to college has really bad effects. I'm still really curious to know, why is it that it can be as bad as smoking cigarettes? That's a really interesting claim to make, so I'm just going to add a question over here again. Why? I'm curious kind of how they came to this conclusion. Okay, so already, just in this really short chunk, I've asked questions, I've looked up unknown words and defined them, I've found a line here that connects to the essential question, and then I've also paraphrased it.